There's this massive shift happening in the global economy right now. Companies are pulling their factories out of places like China and moving them way closer to home. And for Mexico, this could be the opportunity of a lifetime. It's a strategy called nearshoring, and it raises a really critical question. Is this Mexico's golden ticket to becoming a true economic powerhouse? Or is it just a new chapter in a very old story of dependency on its northern neighbor? That's the core question we're really going to unpack here. So first things first, what exactly is nearshoring? Well, you can think of it like this. A lot of American companies are getting tired of their long-distance relationships. They're moving production out of faraway countries like China and bringing it to neighbors like Mexico. Simple as that. So why the sudden rush to move? Well, it was kind of a perfect storm. First, you've got the rising tensions between the US and China, which made a lot of companies pretty nervous. Then, bam, the pandemic hits, and it just completely shatters global supply chains, showing everyone just how risky they were. All of a sudden, making things closer to your customers started to look like a brilliant idea. And this right here, this is the fundamental dilemma for Mexico. On one hand, the upside is huge. We're talking more jobs, new technology, economic stability, all of it backed up by that big US-Mexico-Canada trade agreement, the TMEC. But the downside is just as real. There's a serious risk of becoming even more dependent on the US economy, getting stuck in that old pattern of providing cheap labor while the real innovation and profits head north. To really get our heads around what's at stake, we can't just look at it from one angle. There are actually 4 really powerful lenses we can use to analyze this situation. And trust me, each one tells a completely different story about what's really going on. We're going to look at this through the eyes of a realist, a liberal, a constructivist, and a critical theorist. Thinking through these different perspectives, well, that's the key to seeing the hidden opportunities and the hidden risks in this massive economic shift. All right, let's start with the most cynical, hard-nosed view out there, realism. For a realist, you can just forget all that talk about partnership and mutual benefit. International politics is about one thing, and one thing only, power. From this perspective, nearshoring has absolutely zero to do with helping Mexico. It's a cold, calculated move by the United States to secure its own economy against its main rival, China. In this global chess game, Mexico isn't a partner. It's a pawn, a strategic piece to be moved around the board. Okay, but what if it's not a chess game? What if there's another way to look at it? The liberal perspective offers a much more optimistic take. It argues that the key isn't raw power, but cooperation and having shared rules of the road. See, liberals look at nearshoring and they see a classic win-win. It creates a healthy economic interdependence, which is totally different from dependency. They'll point to things like the TMEC trade agreement, which creates clear, stable rules for everyone to invest and play by. The idea is that through this kind of cooperation, everybody benefits. Mexico gets jobs, the US gets stable supply chains, and the whole region prospers. Okay, so we've got power on one side and rules on the other. But our third view, constructivism, says we're missing the most important factor of all, the story. It argues that what really matters aren't the things you can touch, but the ideas, the identities, and the narratives that shape our reality. So, for a constructivist, the crucial question becomes, what story is being told about Mexico's role in all this? Is Mexico seen, and does it see itself, as an innovative, reliable partner? Or is the narrative that it's just, America's low-cost workshop? The answer to that question, they'd argue, is what will ultimately determine the outcome. It's all about perception. And finally, let's look at the most skeptical view of them all, the critical perspective. This view argues the entire global economic system isn't just a little flawed, it's fundamentally unfair. It's designed from the ground up to create and maintain inequality. From this viewpoint, nearshoring isn't new at all. It's just the latest chapter in a very long history of dependency. It's a story where countries in the global south, like Mexico, provide the cheap labor and the raw materials. Meanwhile, the high-value stuff, the design, the innovation, and of course, most of the profits, they all stay firmly in the north.
It's a system that doesn't just happen to be unequal. It's built to reproduce that inequality over and over again.
So let's just put it all together for a second. Is nearshoring about power, cooperation, ideas, or inequality? The truth is, it's probably about all of them, all at once. These four lenses don't cancel each other out. They give us a much more complete picture, showing how the exact same situation can be seen in four radically different but equally important ways. So, with all these competing realities swirling around, is Mexico's fate already sealed? Not at all. The outcome really hinges on the strategic choices that Mexico makes right now. To avoid that dependency trap, Mexico needs a national strategy that goes way beyond just opening its doors to more maquilas, those foreign-owned assembly plants. The real work is investing in its own people through better education and advanced skills, and really fostering a culture of innovation so it can capture more of that value chain. That's how this opportunity turns into genuine long-term development. Ultimately, I think the key thing to remember is this. Nearshoring is not a written destiny, but a crossroads. It's so true. One path leads right back to those old, familiar patterns of dependency. But the other could lead to a far more prosperous and influential role for Mexico on the global stage. So, here we are, right back where we started, but now with a much clearer view of the stakes. Is this the moment Mexico truly seizes a historic opportunity, or will it find itself caught in a familiar trap? The choices being made today are going to echo for decades, and now you have the tools to understand exactly why.